Looks like we're gonna go ahead and do the rear main seal on the car anyway. And you wanna see how that's all done? Stay tuned. Looks like this is gonna have to come out. So I'll start with removing some of the basic stuff. Disconnect the battery, pull the air cleaner. I'm gonna pop the alternator out of the way. I'm gonna take the power steering pump, leave the fluid in the reservoir and the pump. I'm gonna undo it from the engine, wrap it with, I have some of this right here, this packaging foam. Wrap it up real nice. And I'm going to tie it up here to the side of the car so I don't lose the fluid and everything else out of it. Save a few bucks, I guess you could say. But other than that, let's just start taking it apart. Everything's ready to go ahead and remove the engine from the car. And just for those who know, you know, check out the bricks are back. That's the only way you can get that control arm to clear the engine cherry picker here. So that actually works out pretty good putting it up on the bricks there. So got a jack under the transmission to keep the height of the transmission good. So at this point, ready to go ahead and see if that engine will come out. Okay, we are free transmission. So it gets it all go. Hopefully we can get it high enough to clear this. Been a while since I removed the engine this way. Normally I put it all together on the subframe, but don't worry about it. Okay. Okay. You know, a guy goes through all the trouble setting the camera up to get the whole action of pulling the engine out, and I did hit record. Out with no issues. This is part of the reason why I cleaned out the garage. I needed room to get that engine out and still have some room to play. So now I've got all that space. I'm going to go ahead and mount it here on the engine stand, pull the flex plate off, put it on the engine stand, and start draining the oil so we can get on to the next part. But either way, it is out. The engine is out of the car here. There are a few things we need to get out of our way. I'm going to remove the crankshaft the majority of the way. I don't necessarily want to take it all the way out. I'm hoping to kind of sneak the rear main seal. And I also am aware that some people actually will change this rear main seal while it's still in the car. I'm not that adventurous nor that flexible anymore to lay on my back and try to wrestle the oil pan out. Feel confident that I can do a good job of getting that rear main seal. I'm going to go with the graphite rope style seal. I'm not going to do the one-piece seal on this. I really feel I've done some more homework and research on Pontiac rear mains and really decided I think that's the way I'm going to go. Buddy Louie did a video out there at his channel, did a real nice job on his, and I'm super happy with it, so I'm going to follow suit. But I need to go ahead and take the intake off. I was going to do it anyway, but it needs to come off so that I can, you know, replace the gaskets anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and take it off next. I'm going to roll this engine over, pull the timing cover off the front of the engine completely, and remove the timing chain because I needed to lift the crankshaft up out of the engine at least a couple inches to gain access. So that's my plans here. So I'll go ahead and get the intake, timing cover off, and flip this thing over. Okay, glass bolts. Oh, nope. Nope. Well, at least the intake is stuck on there, but it's a shame the gasket popped here, but I was kind of hoping it'd just pop off for me here. Get the right tool here, I think. Nope. All right. Okay, Richard Pryor bar. See if we can do anything good with that. Oh, yep, there she goes. Makes you wonder why it leaked. That's what we're about to find out. Why? Yeah. Okay. Huh. Like the gasket just disintegrated. I mean, it's obviously there, but didn't hold up whatsoever. disappointing.
Now, one of the things we're also solving was this black soot issue all leaking out here because of the exhaust gasket. You can see the gasket just kind of is crumbling away. There's a metal insert inside the gasket layers, but the top section here completely burned out and missing. There is no gasket left. It's all blackened because that was one heck of an exhaust leak. So I guess we're going to fix a few problems while I get this thing apart. Bad intake gasket, now rear main, I suppose, but I'll get these pulled off here, then we'll get the timing cover ripped off. Timing cover is removed. I've got my timing marks lined up because right now, check this out, the cam is the 12 o'clock position. Inside joke for those who know, but it is lined up here. I'm going to draw a straight line with the center line because I will have to take the chain off to get the slack to lift this crankshaft up out of the block. So next thing is go ahead and just rip out the rest of the oil pan bolts. But interestingly enough, as I look at it, I've got this engine like 70% disassembled. So it's really is kind of a labor-intensive job to do this. But you can really see now the oil pan, super clean right there, dirty. But you can see a trail where it just stayed nice and clean, where the oil was leaking so much it was actually kind of cleaning the pan off. So it's something that needs to be done. It's just a lot of labor to get to it. So let's get this pan out of our way. Oil pan removed, got the timing chain released from the camshaft. Again, my goal is just to pull this crankshaft straight up, but I'm gonna have to pop the oil pump off this thing and our windage tray. And then I should give me enough room to get to the main bearing cap bolts and see what's going on. Windage tray out of the way and oil pump. But look at the pistons in this thing. It's a relatively fresh rebuild. I picked this engine up used on Marketplace, 6 or 7 maybe years ago. Put it in my Le Mans for a short period of time, drove around and did great, but the rear main seal kind of let me down now at this point. But I think the engine's a good engine, just has some daggum leaks. I don't know 100% of the history besides it looked like a fresh rebuild and was worth what I paid for it. So I'm going to pop all these main caps out of here. Bearing looks good. Now these are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, and the rear one's self-explanatory. Do not mix these up. They need to go back on the same spot and orientation. Oh boy. The rear main gets glued down to seal it to the block, so it's putting up a little more of a fight. Oh, I see something funny. Oh, come on now. I don't want to give up. There we go. Well, ain't that interesting? Let me show you this. And the part that I'm finding interesting is, look at this rear main seal. It's one of the newer modern, either 2-piece or 1-piece. So I'm gonna guess it might be a 1-piece because it's still sitting in the block. But here's what's the interesting part. It looks like it came apart. Yikes. Makes you wonder if the 1-piece seal is definitely not the way to go. But we'll see. I'm gonna get the crankshaft. Now the hopes are, leave all the connecting rods connected and pick this crankshaft up just a few inches to get the clearance in here to clean the block out and then start working our new rope seal in. So I'm gonna get my engine hoist all rigged up here with a couple ratchet straps and see if we can't pull that thing straight up. But this here tells me that I probably did the right thing by putting the rope seal back into this one. What we see here on the center line of the front of the crank, that'll keep it from rotating. So what I did on the rear though, the last 2 cylinders turn that at top dead center, so when it pulls it up, it won't want to rotate. If I were to hook it onto here, It'll want to rotate 'cause I'm going to pull in a straight line. So I put that at bottom dead center, or bottom center line the best I could, with the hopes of now, if I pick this thing up, I'm going to try to pull the crankshaft out of the engine block. Oh, okay. It's moving. I need the back to come up just a bit more. There we go. Pop this up with a scotch. There we go. Now eventually I'm going to run out of room. I can't pull it all that because the pistons don't come out of the bottom of the bore. I know that. But so far looking pretty good. But this seal looks like crap. Yeah, I think my piston is hitting here at the bottom of that journal. But I should be able to get this thing out here. Yeah. This was one of those one-piece rear main seals. It didn't survive. This thing's all kinds of chewed up. More so on this face than this one. Not cool. This is interesting. See the red racing stripe here on the crankshaft? That's the seal. It melted into the face of the crankshaft. That's going to complicate things. I really feel that needs to all come out prior to installing the new seal. So what I'm thinking I'm going to have to do is get everything clean on this surface here that I can get. Put the crankshaft back in the block, undo my straps, rotate it, and then clean the other side of it, because there's no way for me to get this side of the crankshaft in its current position. And I really don't want to disconnect all the rods. I really don't want to take the cylinder heads off of it. So I'm going to spend a little time cleaning this off. I mean, it comes off. It scrapes off pretty easily with the razor blade. It's just, like I said, getting access to it. I know I don't want this crap falling down in the block either, so. But you get the idea. I've got to clean all that red gunk off, so I'm going to work on doing that. Ratchet straps off. Got those cylinders closer to top dead center. You can see where I could reach and then couldn't reach. So now I've got enough room to continuously remove the rest of that gunk there off. And here's something else that's interesting. All the people who do use the one-piece rear main, and I did on my dad's car, they're always talking about the concern of this little serrated line on the crankshaft would destroy the seal. It doesn't ride on the serrated part. It rides back here in this groove. So with that being said, those serrations really don't have anything to do with why one of these seals might fail. I'm wondering if this seal was installed dry or something at one point in its life, or just didn't stay lubed up and it just started to melt and burned itself up, or one of the reasons these one-piece rear seals don't work. And I touched on this in the video when I installed one of those on my dad's car. The crankshaft journal is machined out of the block. It's nice and center line and it's happy. But that groove that seal rides in the main cap and then the actual block isn't necessarily exactly centered to the crankshaft. So it may be out of center. In that case, you're going to apply a lot more pressure on one edge. Could have been what happened here, because only one spot on that seal is actually burned through. The rest looks okay. So I think we have a hot spot or a tight spot on that seal, and of course it didn't matter what lube you had on it, it burned it up. So I have a feeling what you do, like I did my dad's car, you put the main bearing cap on without the crankshaft in it, and you can check for, make sure it looks like a nice even circle. It's not bulging one way or the other. So I don't think that happened here. So this is all the more reason this block may have some issues. It was never meant to have a one-piece rear main seal, one of those two-piece rubber ones. It just wasn't designed for it. It was meant for rope seals, so they didn't care
about that tolerance. So enough of this. Finish cleaning that, then work on getting that rear main seal graphite rope seal installed. Okay, I need to rotate this back over where these are bottom dead center, or at least not bottom dead center, but at the bottoms of their bore in a straight line with the center of the crankshaft. Well, you little devil. Took all the spark plugs out of it to make it a little easier to turn, and that definitely helps. Again, I want to get this lined up straight up and down, that way when I pick it up, it doesn't want to swing. So that should do. Okay. Now I assure you, I have no idea what I'm doing. I've never done this before, but I figure we'll give it a good college try. Okay. Okay. There we go. That should be enough room to start working that seal in. All right, the seal I plan to use is the same one Louis used their first generation garage. Comes this little shim here, so when you actually line the seal up, you lay this on the block, cut it off so the seal protrudes from the block, and the main cap just this thickness. And that gets you set up for basically when you put it in, it actually squeezes that seal a little bit tighter. So that's the seal I'm going to use. It's a graphite style one. They're not too horribly expensive. But what you need to do, though, is clean this groove out best you possibly can. Now, there's the anti-rotate hole way down in there. I still have some RTV deep in the hole there. I can't get it all out. I don't think I'm going to worry about it, but what I do plan to do, though, even says in the instructions for these, is you just put a thin little dab to fill that hole in anyway. So I'll just go over top of that. Just got to make sure it's super clean. I went ahead and sprayed some solvent in there, blew it out with compressed air. I think we're ready to go ahead and start fishing that seal in. Now, this seal needs to be formed or packed into that channel of the block and the main bearing cap. And how I plan to do that, I'm going to feed the seal in there after putting a little bit of RTV in those two little anti-rotate holes. Then I'm just going to use the crankshaft, put it back down on the block, probably torque the cap just snug to actually press that rope seal into position. Then remove the main cap, lift the crankshaft back up, cut the seal at the height needed, then lubricate the journal, then reinstall the main cap for the last time, and hopefully that'll give us a good seal on that rear main. I have some ultra gray RTV here, so I'm going to use to fill in the little void there for the anti-rotate holes. This is a free snap-on screwdriver, and I like to say it's the most expensive tool I ever bought from them, but it's not. But it ought to work for what I need here. I'm just going to try to use this to feed just a little dab here in each of those anti-rotate holes per instructions. Okay. This is all those years of finger painting pays off. Okay. All right, now what's that look like down in there? It's kind of hard to get a light, but just packed in that hole just enough to get it to where it'll seal up. So now fish that seal through. Easy enough. All right, I'm gonna use this 1/4" drive extension to kind of walk that seal into the groove, make sure it doesn't rotate or twist. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well. All right. Now, what that looks like, you'll see there, that one anti-rotate hole there, if I can get the camera to focus, it squeezed a little bit of goo out, so I got plenty of it in there. But looking at the depth of that seal, well, it doesn't give you a whole heck of a lot. It's probably why they have you leave this protruding up some, so when you tighten the cap of it, it forces that seal down, making it expand, because right now, looking at it straight down, that doesn't look like it's got enough meat on it there, but I guess we'll find out. So the next thing here, drop this crankshaft into place to kind of help form that seal. Okay. That's in there. Okay, crankshaft's all settled into place now. Here's our rear main cap. Look at this. The bearing has a little bit of wear to it. I'm going to do absolutely nothing about that. Engine runs fine. It wasn't knocking. Wasn't doing anything out of the ordinary. And we're not getting into a rebuild. I'm just going to try to fix this rear leak, but that tells me we do have a little bit of wear there to that, which is kind of a surprise. I get a better view here of this anti-rotate hole thing. So I need to clean all the RTV out of this side of the cap. Get this all cleaned out. And get the cap ready to install. But I'm looking at how much is protruding up here. I don't think I can put this cap on without just mushrooming the heck out of the end of that. So I don't think I'm going to torque the rear cap to squeeze the seal. On the other hand, I think now the seal has been settled, I'm going to let it sit while I'm cleaning this out. I'm going to lift the crankshaft back up, cut it, and do the same to this and do a final install in one pass. So we'll get this crud cleaned out here next. Oh, almost. Got all the RTV cleaned out of the channel. It just needs to be wiped down. I got a little bit of lacquer thinner here. We're going to clean that channel out really, really, really good. Now on the block side of it, it's the same thing, but I guess you could say kind of dripped in it best I could and blew it out with compressed air. And that's where we were at. Okay. I'd say that's a winner. We'll do the same thing as instructed. A little dab of this stuff. Anti-rotate hole. Okay, new seal. It's kind of a square shape if you look at it. I'm gonna make sure you don't get any twist in it when you're installing it. And then just tuck it in the groove. Seal laying in there. Get the biggest rounded socket that I can find. And what we're gonna do, start here at the lowest point of the cap. Just work this seal around. Come back the other way. I'm starting to squeeze out some of the goo. That's why you don't put a whole lot in there, I guess. All right. Next thing is lift this crankshaft up one last time, then trim off our excess here, and then clean up our rear surface here, because we got a seal from this rear main to here, about here where the main cap is, because it's actually metal to metal, but what oil could wick between the cap and the block. So we got anaerobic sealer is ideal. I'll see what I got. But you want to glue from the rear main all the way to almost about that bolt hole there. As you torque it down, it'll kind of squeeze out. So let's get this crankshaft pulled out the last time. Now they give you this little popsicle stick that comes with the kit. You're supposed to put, I guess, here on the inside of that. That way when you start cutting the seal, you aren't cutting your thumb or reduce that chance. And we got this little shim that stacks in here. That's going to be your height guide. And then just start filing away until you finally get through the seal. You'll hit the popsicle stick hopefully soon. The razor blade that came mine wouldn't cut this thing at all. Really disappointed. Okay, see how that works. Easy enough. Do that 3 more times. Okay, crankshaft sitting down for the last time. Clean. Make sure this is really clean. I said from the rear main seal to the edge of the main cap where the oil pan meets the gasket. So we need to seal the main cap basically to the block. What I'm going to use is anaerobic sealer. That way it dries in the absence of air. Ooh, I need to put some oil on the crankshaft. Get this side cleaned off too. Okay, that's ready. All right, I want to oil where the rear main rides. You don't want that thing to start up dry. Careful not to get on where I just cleaned, but you get the idea. I'm not gluing the 2 halves of the seal together with the anaerobic sealer, just a little bead from each side of the seal, straight out. Now 80% of that's going to squeeze out when I torque that cap down. I guess I can get all this thing out of the way now too. Well, my main caps are torqued. I like to give it just a little bit of a bump to make sure she still turns over. If it doesn't, stop and figure out what you did wrong. Turns over nice. So, all right, proceed with windage tray, oil pump, timing chain, timing cover. Put this engine back together. Bottom side is all buttoned up. You can see a little bit of the blue goo squeeze out of that cap there, which is normal. That's what you want to see. That means it's actually sealed and squeeze all of it out. Check the gasket all the way around. If you flip this thing over, make sure the cork didn't shift around. Looks pretty good. Everything on the bottom side that I can tell is buttoned up, so time to flip this thing back over. Now these things are so lightweight, this is effortless, right? Right. You're right.
gravity is always on the other side of me. Well, what can I get with that ridge? There we go. Ew, that's nasty. Ta-da! That looks a whole lot better. A couple minutes wiping it down with some lacquer thinner. Got all that crud off that was being upside down, dumping all over it. Took some compressed air and blew on it. Knocked off some of the paint. I think what I'm going to do, go ahead, clean up the intake some, get the gasket cleaned up off of it, and then reinstall the intake and do a little paint touch-up. I don't plan on painting the whole engine over again, but at least do some touch-up while it's out, so once you go through all the trouble, it looks like someone did something while they're in there. So I'll get that intake squared away next. These are brand new Velcro intake gaskets. I think what looked like was on the last time was definitely not Velcro. They weren't blue in color, so they may have been some kind of off-brand thing. So hopefully these hold up a little better. Lightweight, hardly. Okay. All right, a little touch-up paint job made this thing look a whole lot better. Now I'm hoping that everything goes pretty smooth, but now, unlike other videos where they do a rear main seal, I actually plan on spending the next 5 or 6 hours putting this guy back where that goes in there and then run it and show you the results, not go, hey, I put a rear main seal in it and did it work? I don't know. So that's what I'm going to do now, work on stabbing this back in, and then we'll fire it up and see what happens. My wife tells me to leave the camera rolling at all times just in case something goes wrong. Not that we ever wanted to go wrong, but if the camera's going, I guess you catch it. But I've got it rolled over here in the engine compartment, hovering above it. I should be able to let this down gradually, slowly. Should be able to keep it rotated the right direction because it's not a front-wheel drive car. And then we'll get this engine in place, hopefully without scarring or marring or damaging any of the paint. I got it out. Okay. Hoping we can do the same thing going back in. Close to the wiper motor here. There we go. That's more gooder. Snagging my ignition wire down. That's all right. Hang up anything? Looks good. All right, I need to go back. Okay.
Okay. Gotta line up the transmission now. All right, what we have now, I've got it down here pretty close, but I've actually got the transmission sitting too high because that bolt hole there won't quite line up. My dowel pins are a little out of whack, but I can get that thing to focus on that at all. But you can see that dowel pin, my transmission's higher than the engine, so all I need to do then should be hopefully as simple as let this jack down and, well, you can't ask for better than that. So I think we'll put some bolts out. Let's see, hold on. Yeah, the dowel is lined up, but my gap is wider at the bottom than it is at the top. So I need to actually lift the transmission back up a bit. But I might see if I can get that bolt started to keep things positioned, and then I'll pick up the transmission and the engine at the same time, and it should close the gap on the bottom. Engine is back in 99.9% done, so I gotta put the hood on, but I figure I'll run it here first and make sure I don't have any leaks. I really don't want to take the hood back off more times than necessary because, yes, those things cause me stress. But here's something else to keep in mind. Not necessarily this brand, but some kind of zinc additive or ZDDP additive. If you're still running a good old-fashioned camshaft in your engine, you don't want to wipe the lobes because you don't want to take that thing out again to replace the camshaft and clean out all the sludge. So I put some 1040 on. I got to put this in. Got to start squeezing a little bit more coolant in it here, and then we're going to fire this thing up, hopefully, and make sure that we don't have any more daggum oil leaks. I know it's going to take more coolant than this, but I'm going to get it run. Now, all into this point, I have 3.5 hours to get the engine out. I got almost that much time doing the rear main seal, taking the engine apart, and then about that much time putting it back in. All in all, about 11 hours into this job. So if you're wondering how long it actually takes or could take, well, that's how long it's taken. Now, I am a little more meticulous when it's something I don't want to scratch up and tear up, and I don't intentionally tear cars up either, but when it's something like this, you do move a little bit slower and a little more mindful, like take the pulleys off the front of the engine so you got more room, maybe even pull the distributor. Things along those lines so you reduce the chance of bouncing it off something, tearing it up. But enough of that. I'm going to fire this thing up, hopefully, and I'm sure probably smoke, choke, and puke and make a bunch of weird noises when it's going now, but let's find out. I got some gas now. There. Not bad. Yeah. There's some stuff burning off the manifolds. I kind of expected that because, well, I made a mess of this thing. It was upside down. Not really a whole lot of junk coming out back here, so. Moment of truth. Nothing leaking down here on the floor yet. That's a first in a long time.
time. Sounds good still. I'm gonna let that run for a bit, get up the temperature, and I can check my coolant level, make sure it's full, and then play musical cars out here in the driveway and take this thing for a little quick drive without the hood on it, maybe. It already sounds a lot better without that exhaust leak. It doesn't have that tick, 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 tick under the hood. So yeah, but it has no oil leaks, so we made some progress to make the thing a little bit better. Throttle still feels good, engine still runs nice. I'm gonna go put some miles on it. We have 4311 on the old clock now. We'll see how miles I can put on it here before it starts raining, and then we'll let it sit overnight. Okay, headed back now, 4322. Basically, it's getting ready to scroll over there. So put some miles on it. And now for the fun part, like watching paint dry. I'm gonna let this thing sit overnight in the driveway. I'm gonna show you where it's at. The driveway is nice, clean, and everything. So then if it leaves no spots in the morning, we're gonna call this good. It's so close to that 4320 mark, but you get the idea. Close enough. Let's take a peek under the car here. And see how she's looking so far. That sounds solid. Oh, yeah. Okay, now I know this isn't saying much because I just shut it off. But you can see on the driveway, there's no spots. Here's our oil pan. That's the passenger side way over there. There's nothing on my driveway. And even at this point, the oil pan is dry. Look at that. I tell you, that's a vast improvement. So I'm gonna call this good for now, but we're gonna revisit this guy tomorrow. Hey, rise and shine. It's a new day here at the Vinyl Village Garage, and we're gonna see how well that seal held up underneath the great pumpkin here. And I suspect, oh, yeah. Man, look at that. Nothing, nowhere. Dry as can be. So looks like we're gonna give this a clean bill of health. Okay, now prior to doing that rear main seal, the valve cover, and the oil setting unit, that would have left an oil slick down my driveway. So yeah, it says only 10 miles of driving. I've only put a short amount of time on it, but it's already 1,000,000% better than it was. So even if it does pick up a slow seep after this, that car is totally drivable the way that it is now. We're not leaving happy trails everywhere it goes. Now the thing about it is I put the 2-piece rope seal, graphite rope seal in there. I did a 1-piece seal on my dad's car. Why I went that way? I don't know. I just wasn't feeling confident in the 1-piece seal. And it made me feel even more, I guess I did a good thing, was look, I pulled this out of that engine. It was one of those 1-piece rear main seals. But as I've looked at it, I like to know the why it failed, because, you know, we don't grow or learn from it. We're not going to get any better. We're just going to assume just because kind of thing. But looking at this seal, this little glob of rubber goo here, should be one over here also. That was where it was put into the anti-rotate holes in the block. Notice where the gap is at. Basically the 6 o'clock position. You're not supposed to put the gap there. That's an absolute no. It says in the instructions. Now, I did have the silicone, the RTV around it, so that was okay, but I'm beginning to think this one has suffered from either, I think the biggest one is, this engine that was in that car there was rebuilt before I bought it. We don't know how long it sat on a shelf. Did they lubricate the seal? Did it go dry and dry up and start up dry? And that was the beginning of the end. I don't know. But the other thing I'm thinking is, it has some super heavy wear right here at this part here. I'm wondering if you all saw the video I did my dad's. You got to test fit this seal with the crankshaft out if you're going to do 1-piece, and look for bulges, because it actually squeezes it too tight and causes it to buckle. I think that's what happened to this one here. So it isn't necessarily a seal failure, but maybe not the best quality install, or it went dry. So I guess what I'm saying is I would still probably use a 1-piece rear main seal if I had the engine out on an engine stand, crankshaft out of it, and you have time to file fit or basically work this seal in there properly, then I think you'll be happy with it. But if you cannot, like in this case here, I didn't take the crankshaft all the way out, I would probably go with the rope seal, because it'll take care and form to the misaligned center line of the casting versus the bore of the crankshaft. So enough of this. That thing is fixed, super happy with it. Got a couple other loose ends to tie up. Got that rattly center cap. I'm going to do some seat belt, shoulder belts, some other updates to the car here. And we're going to give it back. And we're going to get to work on my GTO
and the high school car over there. So plenty more footage of plain cars here in the garage showing you how it can be done to give you some kind of a clue, or just having fun watching play cars is just as equally as cool, I suppose, just the same. So anyway, nonetheless, I'm gonna grab my orange Mountain Dew, take a break, maybe work on sorting some parts for this thing, grab the camera when I get something really cool happening, and hope to see you all then.